Okay, we're sitting out in front of Signature Aviation, and we're going to do an approach into the same airport here at John Wayne. We're going to request the ILS 20 right approach about 6 in the morning, and we're in the dark. It's a lot different in the dark. It's very difficult at times, and it's particularly can be dangerous at night. You can lose your horizon very easily, and particularly when you're on top of the clouds. You know, if you lose power, what do you do? Anyway, so we've done all our pre-flight briefings, weather, passenger briefing. I don't have a passenger this morning. This is single pilot cockpit resource management. It's called SRM. It's very difficult actually. We're going to go through our checklist now. We've already done thin this out a little bit. That's where I put these little checklists up in the corner. They kind of stay out of the way. I've got a hotkey for this. Just bring it up and down, and I have two different checklists. One for because the pre-flight is quite long, I separated them into two. The pre-flight and before starting engine are on one, and this is the rest of the flight. So we're starting out right now before taxi, and we're going to follow our checklist as to what to do. And number one says ATIS and lean for ground operation. We're already leaned out. That's in the pilot operating handbook, by the way, to how to lean for ground operations, and some other leaning procedures which are in the amplified section of section 4. And so we'll follow our list. Number one is ATIS. So we'll flip-flop, we'll put in ATIS, which I get from my ILS approach plate, which is on my iPad, and it is 126.0, so we would put that in there on the flip-flop and then flip-flop it over. I have keys for everything.
Orange County, John Wayne Information X-ray. 1200 Zulu weather. Wind 200 at 10, RVR 2100. Sky conditions 250 overcast, temperature 14, dew point 14. Altimeter 2992. Arriving runway 20 right, departing runways 20 right, 20 left. Advise on initial contact you have X-ray.
Okay, so you want to write down X-ray, and the departing runways is important. The altimeter is important. Let's look and see what we got here. And it's at 2992. I know the airport elevation, and that's another way to set it. And we'll continue on with the checklist here. 2 lights, panel lights, reset clock. Let's reset our clock over here. And that's usually 3 clicks. I leave it on the flight time FT. You can toggle through that, do whatever you like there. And now we're getting ready to get clearance. So we have to go over to, this is I'll do clearance on COM2. You can do it on either radio, whichever works for you. But I have a system of contacting tower and departure frequencies. I usually are on COM1 and ground, COM2, ATIS, stuff like that on COM2. So we're getting ready to get our clearance. So we want to copy, get ready to copy, and we're going to think now what we're going to do. So we've got, as of the ILS approach plate, I can see that clearance delivery is 118. So we'll flip-flop that in, and we're getting ready to transmit. And when I do that, I go 1, 2, 3, think. 1 is the frequency, 2 is the transmit frequency. Let's get a little closer look at that. And we are on C2 up here, which we want, and we're receiving on COM2, so we're good on that. And what do I want to tell him? Well, I'm going to listen now to see what kind of traffic is out there. It's early in the morning, so there's not much traffic, and I'm just going to let him know where I'm at. I'll just call in with my call sign. You don't want to boggle them down. They might be doing other things. Just the first contact, just give them your call sign. Okay, what I just did there, I have these automated voice checklists. That's how I do it, and you can download them from my site. And I just wound it back to the beginning where I start, and I just leave them off normally. And I have a forward and backward hotkey. And so right now I'm just going to call them up and give them my call sign. John Wayne, clearance, Skyhawk 79er 54 Yankee. Listening.
Skyhawk 79er 54 Yankee, good morning, John Wayne clearance.
Okay, so he recognized me, and I'm just gonna, now I have to be ready to copy, and he's gonna tell me what to do. So 1, 2, 3, think, and I'm just going to tell him that I've filed a flight plan, and it might be request on file. And you don't necessarily have to tell him you have X-ray. John Wayne clearance, Skyhawk 79er 54 Yankee, IFR to John Wayne, request on file. Now you need to be ready to copy.
Skyhawk 79er 54 Yankee, cleared to the John Wayne Airport by a fly heading 220, expect radar vectors Seal Beach, direct. Maintain 2000, expect 3000 5 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 121.3, squawk 3041.
Okay, so I'm looking at what I just wrote down, and here we go. John Wayne clearance, Skyhawk 79er 54 Yankee, cleared to John Wayne via heading 220. Expect radar vectors, Seal Beach, direct. Maintain 2000. Expect 3000 5 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 121.3, squawk 3041.
Skyhawk 54 Yankee, read back correct.
Okay, so we're done with clearance. We've got our clearance back into the airport here, or wherever we were going. And now we go up to checklist and number 4. We're going to reset our comm and to ATIS. Let's do that. So we'll flip-flop COM2 and put in 126.0. And that's ATIS in there, because I'll get that again before I land. We're going to keep in ground there, and we're now going to get ready to contact ground. But anyway, we want to enter transponder codes. Let's get a little closer view on this so you can see what I'm doing. 3041, and I'm going to switch over to mode C now, because if you look on the airport diagram, which I always have called up for taxiway routes, hotspots, etc. If you look on there, I believe it's there, or in the airport facility directory, which is now in the chart supplements, that this is an ASD/ASDX airport, and that means that they have ground control radar, and you want to be in the mode C, alt mode, which I just did. Okay, so we've got the transponder codes in. We reset. We're on number 6, set GPS, so I'll call up the GPS, and I want to set the frequency here to, I've already got it in there, but normally you would set that in there, you know, and it's 121.3, and we have, make sure that tower is in the transmit on COM 1, because we'll contact them before we leave. And now we could call up the procedure. Let's just do it for fun, and we'll select approach, and we're going to go down to ILS 20 right, enter. I like to put in, it just gives you a few more waypoints and something in case something happens out there. I put in the Sager initial approach fix, enter, and we just load it, and we'll go in and check it now. And I like to activate, whoops, I like to activate Hook'em, because that's generally go back out here. Hook'em is generally where they're going to vector you in, because we're going to request vectors this morning. And this is the default screen for the GPS 430, and it's called X-Plane 430. It's very similar to the real world, and you can fly all the approach places. Very nice. This is the default screen, but I like to go over to this screen, and I always set in 15 nautical miles, works it good in the range, and you can still see your ATC boundaries for Charlie airspace, things like that. And I also, up here, if you go into the menu, I set it up so that it says your next waypoint and distance, and that's, even though we're flying a ground-based approach today, ILS 20 right, you can still use your GPS for sequences and mileages. So that's what I do there. So I leave it in this as kind of my default screen. So we'll get rid of that for now. Everything's set up there. Going back up here, we're going to make sure our autopilot is off. We need to turn on our glare shield. Starting to get a little lighter out. Autopilot is off, and I put in the maintain altitude here so that I don't bust it. That's just my habit. You don't want to bust any altitudes. Particularly on the I-1 rating for Pilot Edge. If you bust altitudes, they could fail you for that. So I put that in there, knowing that I'll get 3,000 after that. And so moving right along. Set altimeter, we did, and I'm set for the airport elevation, so I know that's good. Everything seems to jive there, 299.2. And now we're going to contact ground, and they're going to give us a taxi route. So you want to have your airport diagram somewhere to brief your taxi route. All right, so we're going to contact ground. We can get rid of that for now. Contact ground, and it's 120.8 and transmitting on C2, receiving COM2. So we're good to go on that. We can listen to ground for a second here. Still nothing going on. We're going to give them our location and that we have X-ray. John Wayne ground, Skyhawk 79er 54 Yankee, Signature Aviation, IFR to John Wayne with X-ray.
Skyhawk 79er54 Yankee, runway 20 left at Kilo, taxi via Alpha, Hotel, Charlie, hold short runway 20 left.
And you should copy that, have a sheet ready to copy that all down. Runway 20 left at Kilo intersection, taxi via Alpha, Hotel Charlie, hold short, 20 left at Kilo intersection.
Skyhawk 54 Yankee, read back correct.
Okay, so we've got our ground clearance and we're going to get ready to taxi now. We've written that down. I'm going to brief the approach, or excuse me, the airport diagram, and make sure that I see everything. There is a hotspot 3 right where I want to taxi, because when people turn left on Hotel, they sometimes miss Charlie, I guess. And there's also one down at Lima intersection, and we're good to go on that. So I know where to go. And I'm going to put my lights on as they should be. I don't need a strobe here. They can see my beacon light flashing, and I've got my nav lights on, and I've got my taxi lights on. So there's no reason they can't see me, and I'm ready to taxi now. So I'll pull off the brakes. Look around a little bit. And I'm looking for the yellow line. This is a non-movement area. A yellow, solid yellow taxi line. And we're pulling up onto airport operations, the white lines here. That's where the fuel trucks go back and forth, or any other vehicles, so I'll wait there and look both ways. I don't see those little trucks, so we're good to go on that. And up ahead, I know we're moving out of the non-movement area into the movement area, which you need a clearance, and we do have a taxi clearance. And I can see my location sign and destination sign there. We're on Alpha. Over to left is the runway run-up area for midfield run-up, but we're not busy this morning, so we're going to do our run-up on Kilo intersection. Following Alpha, and we're looking for destination sign, Hotel. There it is. There's the destination arrow sign to the hotel. It says Charlie right there. This is a hot spot. People miss this in the fog sometimes. So there's Charlie to the right. Normally, you would see runway lead-on, taxiway lead-on lights, but they don't have them modeled. Although this is a good model, you can look at the blue taxiway lights. And you can see over to the left the boundary markings, taxiway boundary markings, and the solid double line. And while I'm taxiing, I can check to make sure my turn coordinator's working right. I can look at my heading indicator and see that it jives with the compass. Although you really want to, if you want to check your compass, you should go to a Compass Rose. There's one on this airport, as well as a ground-based nav VOT. And that's taxiway Juliet. We can go down to Kilo. When I pull up to Kilo intersection, I'm going to do my run-up. I like to turn up into the wind. We've got a little bit of a breeze of 10 knots this morning, so you should always turn up into the wind. run up. And although I still want to be out of the way in case somebody comes along that's ready to just take off, so I'll show you what I do. Normally you might want to do a run up when it's busy airport. You want to do your run up, get that done. In a run up area, there's midfield run up, and there's also another one, a couple others on the airport. And there is the destination sign Kilo. So, and we're on Charlie, location sign Charlie with a black background. So I'm going to pull up here and kind of make a U-turn and head up into the wind. And we're getting ready. The terminal was there over to the right. They're getting ready for the morning takeoffs. And I'll just I'll get out of the way of taxiways here. And I'm headed up into the wind. And I'll put my brake on there. And call up a checklist. And like I said, there's a checklist for everything. This is the before takeoff, which is also known as the run-up. I set my parking brake. 2, doors and windows, seats, seat belts. Doors and windows, locked. Seat belts. Seats are in the upright position. And this is the way I do flight controls on a flight simulator. Of course, you're not going to do this in the aircraft, but I just like to do it this way. And I go outside and I take a look outside, and I'll put on ailerons, right and left ailerons, rudder, pitch up, pitch down, right turn, left turn, everything looks good, so I'll go back inside. And now we're doing the instrument check. I'm going to sync. I've got a hotkey for that, syncing the heading indicator to the compass. Fuel quantity is good. Looking at our gauges over there. Here goes another little 172 taking off. Fuel looks good. We'll check for both. We're on both. Mixture rich. I'm going to give it a little bit more RPM. Now we're going to run up to 1800. Easing in the throttle. You want to be easy on throttles, mixes, flight controls. There's 1800, and we're going to do, as per operating manual, we're going to do the right first. We're looking for vacuum pressure. We went down about 100, which is okay within limits, which is 150. We're looking at annunciators. Back to both, clear it out. Back to 1800, and then we'll do our left. Once again, checking everything, ammeter, vacuum, everything looks good. Back to both, and then we'll pull power back to idle. It's very important that the aircraft idle, because a lot of times you'll be pulling power. When you're too high on approach, you don't want the engine to die at that time. And then we're going to lean for ground, back up to 1000, and then lean for ground operations. Otherwise you'll foul your plugs. Heading bug, I'm going to set it to the initial heading. I have hotkeys, right and left bracket for my heading bug, which works real well. You'll see them in there. So I put that on the initial heading of 220. Radios are set. Radio means the radio frequency. I want to make sure that I have tower in COM 1. We'll pull that up for now. Now, although we're still in contact with ground, we got to ask for a transfer over. Avionics are set. Nav, GPS switch. We're on the nav mode. This is nav. NAV here means that these are ground-based. You're going to be using ground-based nav aids. Although GPS, like I said, you can still use GPS for sequencing and mileages and so forth. That's good. Autopilot is off. Check. Elevator trim to take off. I have a hotkey. We can look down if you want. Yes, it's set to take off. And now we're getting ready to contact tower. So we want to be on C2. Ground frequency, C2, and listening on there. So we'll tell them that we're ready for IFR and we're ready for departure. Think. John Wayne ground, Skyhawk 7954 Yankee, ready for IFR departure, 20 left at Kilo intersection.
Skyhawk 54 Yankee, contact tower 126.8.
Skyhawk 54 Yankee, contact tower 126.8. We've got the frequency 126.8, COM 1. We got a flip-flop to C1 and receive on COM 1. We're good on that, so we'll tell them basically the same thing. John Wayne Tower, Skyhawk 7954 Yankee, ready for IFR departure, holding short, 20 left at Kilo intersection with X-ray.
Skyhawk 7954 Yankee, runway 20 left at Kilo, cleared for takeoff, wind 200 at 10.
Cleared for takeoff 20 left at Kilo intersection, Skyhawk 54 Yankee. So we're going to go through there's a checklist for everything. We're going to take our brake off, pull forward, step up to the plate here. We'll get rid of our GPS for now. And cleared for mixture rich. Lights, I turn all the lights on when I'm taking off. Double check sync. Autopilot trim, everything's good there. Transponder to alt, yes. And wing flaps are 0 for me, and then we're ready to go. So we'll get rid of that, and we're gonna look both ways. I don't see any traffic there or there. And we'll taxi smoothly into position and then accelerate. Slight back pressure, airspeed's alive, and let the airplane fly off. And I know my holding the runway heading right up into the clouds, and I'm pitching for about 78. We can get off our strobes. Lights, we don't need those anymore. Holding our runway heading at about 500 feet, we turn on our autopilot and our heading. And we're in the clouds, so we can bring up a different screen now. And we're verifying that everything is good. Get get ready to listen for
Skyhawk 54 Yankee, contact SoCal departure.
over to departure, Skyhawk 7954 Yankee. So we're going to flip-flop COM 1, and departure is 121.3, and we'll contact them now. SoCal departure, Skyhawk 7954 Yankee, 1400 for 2000.
Skyhawk 7954 Yankee, SoCal departure. Good morning, radar contact. Climb and maintain 3000, John Wayne altimeter 2992, say approach request.
Okay, so we're going to arm our approach at 3000, and we're going to tell them our approach request and double checking our frequencies. Climb and maintain 3000. I'd like the ILS 20 right to John Wayne this morning. Vectors, please.
Skyhawk 54 Yankee, turn right heading 010, vectors ILS runway 20 right, final approach course.
Okay, so I set my heading in first. I always want to twist, turn, twist, etc., and then I'll contact them back. Right to 010, expect vectors to 20 right approach, ILS 20 right approach, Skyhawk 54 Yankee. Okay, and you can hear the slipstream changing, and we want to pull back power here, and we're going to lean for recommended lean. That's in the pilot operating handbook at the amplified section of section 4. Let's take a look outside what we got. Got a little bit of fog on our windshield. And if you look at our GPS, we're about 11 miles from Hookham, so we're going to start getting ready for landing, believe it or not. Let's call up our checklists. After takeoff, we did that. Lights, flaps, mixed. We're good on that. We're done climbing, and we're now in cruise. We'll lean out our mixture right now. And how you do that is you look at your EGT and you pull back your mix until you find peak. You first set your power where you want it, and we're about 2400, which is fine. We don't need to go too fast this morning, and we're going to lean out our mix until we find peak. And we're on the lean side of peak, and we want to go back in. And we want to be 50 degrees Fahrenheit on the rich side of peak. And we did that. That's called recommended lean. And now we can listen to ATIS, so we're going to flip-flop.
Orange County, John Wayne Information Hotel. 1300 Zulu weather. Wind 200 F10, RVR 2100. Sky conditions 250 overcast, temperature 14, dew point 14. Altimeter 2992. Arriving runway 20 right, departing runways 20 right, 20 left. Advise on initial contact, you have hotel.
Okay, so we're on the information hotel, and that should carry us for a while. The altimeter setting is important there. That's where, let's double check that.
Orange County, John Wayne Information Hotel. 1300 Zulu.
got hotel, so we flip-flop that back out, and we're talking to SoCal departure on COM 1, double checking that. Everything looks good. Now we want to listen to nav 1, see if we can hear it. Might not be able to hear it. And we're going to start doing our Glumsa check. Gas, fuel pump. I don't change the fuel pump in this 172. It depends on your aircraft, whatever they recommend in the pilot operating handbook. Lights, let's get our lights all set. I turn on all lights for landing. And we don't have a landing gear, it's fixed gear. Mix, rich, let's go mix, rich. Props, we have a fixed pitch prop in this aircraft. Sync the heading indicator to your compass. And seats and seat belts, we haven't changed anything there. So we want to arm our approach. And we listen to ATIS. Good to go. So Glumsa's good, and we're getting close to Hookham. And we should be listening up for SoCal approach. Let's take a look outside. Starting to be sunrise. Looks like we're not in the clouds. We're just on top. Got a cloud layer, which is very typical for Southern California. It's an inversion layer. And we're going to get ready to listen to SoCal approach. They're going to vector us pretty soon. We can get down into the 10 degrees of flaps range, which is 110 knots indicated as per pilot operating handbook. And I know that setting, power setting is about 2,000, 2,100. And I'll put some flaps on. This is the way I like to do approaches. There's many different ways to do it. The best way to do it is whatever your flight instructor tells you to do. You can hear the slipstream there, a little bit of a ballooning maneuver. And the autopilot is trimming us in. Add a little bit of power, keep us up to about 105 knots. Although you want to be careful not to go over 110 knots, particularly when you start to go downhill. We're listening up for SoCal approach.
Skyhawk 54 Yankee, turn right heading 100.
And I turn first, and then I contact them back. Right to 100, Skyhawk 54 Yankee. So we're turning and maintaining 3,000 feet, and we're keeping track of our autopilot. Our approach is armed, and we're waiting. And we're watching nav 1 to make sure when our comes alive. We're heading straight for just inside of Snake. And we're going to be about 3 miles from Hookham.
Skyhawk 54 Yankee, 3 from Hookham, turn right heading 160. Maintain 3000 until established on the localizer, cleared ILS runway 20 right approach.
Turn right to 160, maintain 3000 until established on the localizer, cleared for ILS 20 right approach, Skyhawk 54 Yankee. Okay, so we want to turn right to 160. That time I delayed the turn maneuver a little bit because I knew that I where I was at on my GPS. And I don't want to, I want to intercept outside of Hookup. This should get us there. And not the glide slope is alive and the localizer is not alive just yet. Our speeds are good, but we are getting ready to go downhill, so you want to be able to pull back just a little bit. My power setting going downhill with 1-notch flaps is 1800, approximately 1800 RPM. Still nothing on the, now we got our approach, the localizer is locked in, and we're waiting on the glide slope.
Skyhawk 5-4 Yankee, maintain 100 knots to Lemon, then contact John Wayne Tower 126.8.
100 knots to Lemon, contact Tower 126.8, Skyhawk 7954 Yankee, good day. So we can flip-flop that, and we're going to maintain 100 knots. Got to power up just a little bit. We are on the glide slope though, so I'm going to set my setting to about 1800, and we're headed downhill now. Looking to make sure we're coordinated, going through gas lights, undercarriage.
Orange County, John Wayne Information Hotel.
That's still hotel. And when we contact Tower at Lemon, we're going to tell them that we have hotel. I want to set my heading bug now to the runway. It's just a habit of mine. And we're starting to enter the clouds. We'll lead it down in this view. We're 1 mile to Lemon, so I got to think and make sure I'm transmitting on COM 1, which I am. 126.8 is set, and I'm just going to tell them my location, the approach, bring up a checklist here, state position, state approach, ATIS, hotel, and above, 2 minutes to grade. Okay. John Wayne Tower, Skyhawk 7954 Yankee at Lemon, ILS 20 right with hotel.
Skyhawk 7954 Yankee, John Wayne Tower, altimeter 2992, wind 200 at 10, cleared to land.
Cleared to land, 20 right, Skyhawk 7954 Yankee. Okay, so he gave me some important information. He'll give me the latest on the altimeter setting, and it is set. We're looking for the runway environment, and we are about 2,000 feet indicated. Speeds are good. I don't like to lumber in on these approaches at Charlie Airspace because there's a lot of aircraft, the Part 121 carriers that come in here at 200 knots. So you want to maintain a good airspeed, and so you get the runway environment in sight. Then I'll turn my autopilot off. Whoops. And now we're fully in the clouds. I'll turn off my strobe light. And we can't see much, so I'm going to go to this view. Speed is good, 100 knots. Lights are all in where they should be. Let's take a look down. Take a look out the window if you want. Nothing to see. And we're coming up on 1,000 feet at AGL. We briefed our miss, so climb 3,000. The localizer south course to Minnow, which is about 11 DME. about 1,000 feet above DA, which is 250 feet, MSL 200 feet, AGL. Speeds look good. At about 500 feet above DA, I'm going to pull back power and slow down to the normal flap operating range, which is the wide arc. I'm going to pull back to about 80 knots and get ready to look outside. We really don't need our GPS now, so I'll get rid of that. I've got DME to the runway environment. It's 3.7, so the threshold is about a mile off, so we're about 2.6 miles to the runway threshold, and we're coming up on 500 feet above DA. So I'm going to pull power to 1400. You don't want to pull power too much because this autopilot will trim me right into a stall, so you can be careful of that. As soon as I get about 80 knots, slow down. I lock in 1500. All of these power settings are memorized, and they're part of op specs for if you're a commercial aircraft. So I'm locking in 80 knots, and we're now 300 feet above DA. We're looking out for the runway environment. And I want to, this is a Mauser approach, so I'm looking for a sequence flashing rabbit and green lights on the runway threshold. I don't see anything. As soon as we get to DA, I'm either going to do a mist or I'm going to shut my autopilot off and take manual control of the aircraft. And there's the ground, and there's the rabbit. So pitch up a little bit, and we're going to start slowing down. Watching our vertical speed. A little bit high. When I cross the threshold, I want to be at about 60 knots. A little bit fast.
Skyhawk 54 Yankee, exit left at hotel, contact ground 120.8.
Skyhawk 54 Yankee, good day. And we're clear, we're in between runways, so we're clear of the runway safety area, and we're gonna call up our checklist, and this is after landing checklist. Flaps up, lean for ground operation. You should do that because you'll foul plugs. Trim for takeoff. I've got a hotkey for that, and lights as desired. We are going to cross runway this morning. We don't need our landing lights, and we don't need our ID. And we're getting ready to contact ground. flip-flop over to C2, transmit on C2. Our frequency is correct, 120.8, C2, and listening on COM2. And then we got to think what we're going to say. And we're going to tell them where we're located and where we want to go. John Wayne ground, Skyhawk 7954 Yankee, holding short, 2 right, hotel, taxi to signature.
Skyhawk 7954 Yankee, John Wayne ground, taxi to signature via hotel, Alpha.
Taxi to signature via hotel, Alpha. Skyhawk 54 Yankee, good day. Okay, so we're done with, we're still listening for ground, but we're kind of done with them. And we'll get rid of our checklist here, so we'll start to taxi. Want to look both ways. They're still departing on 20 left. And that's what we're going to be crossing, 2 right and 20 left, same runway. You know, at John Wayne, this is the general aviation runway. And you see our destination sign is Charlie to the left, and we are in location hotel. And we just crossed the whole short line. So we're clear of a runway environment. And we're looking for Alpha. It says to the left, but I'm pretty sure it's to the, that sign is probably wrong. It should be both ways. Signatures over to the left here, and we're crossing leaving the taxiway boundary, double hashed lines there, and we're going to cross airport operations, the white lines, leaving the movement area to the non-movement area. Looking both ways. Pull up here. Just to the right of this. Signature is generally a corporate aircraft, you know, the King Airs, stuff like that. But I park here because it's closer, takes a little less time. If you look up on the building there, you can see the green and white flashing light. The airport beacon. Pull up to the white line. And that should do it. Now pull up our securing airplane checklist. Parking brake set. Number 2, running lights off. Panel lights, glare shield light off, and cabin air is off. Avionics master switch off. Mixture idle cutoff.
The engine seems ideally primed.
That's the automated voice, which you can turn on settings. If you don't like them, I kind of like them, they're fun. So we turn our ignition switch to off, 3 clicks to the left. Master switch off, both off there. Fuel selector valve to both, or excuse me, left or right. The reason they do that is so the tanks will not crossfeed. And then finally we'll do our control lock install. If you were you could click on that if you wanted to, but the way that I like to do it, let's go back and take it off, is go up to quick start and just secure aircraft, Put your control lock in. Let's get rid of that checklist. And put your pitot tube cover on, your chocks, and your tie downs all the way around the aircraft. So this is a nice feature, just saves a little time. And now you know your aircraft is ready to start next time everything is good. You also notice that it takes off your brake, and that's recommended to leave your parking brake off so it doesn't ride in the wind. You're relying on your tie downs. And that's the end of that little trip this morning. This is very similar to the I-1 rating at Pilot Edge, who I highly recommend. And you can download these checklists, automated checklists, and so forth from my website at aviationknowledge.org. And I do recommend this Airfoil Labs new aircraft. It's completely remodeled. It really lands well, does everything well in my opinion. I do own the Coronado and 172 as well as the stock 172. This has a lot more features and I do recommend it. And that should be it for now. Take care.